All right, we are live. Good evening. This is Attorney Vincent Davis, and this is The Secret: How to Fight CPS and Win, CPS Trial Strategies. Tonight, I'm joined by my co-host, Miss G, Miss Georgette Truan. Miss G, how are you today?
I'm good. Thank you so much.
And my other co-host, Mr. Darren Guai. Darren, how are you? Is Darren muted? I
Oh,
can
there
hear
we
you.
go. How are you doing, Mr. Davis? I'm good.
Good, good, good. And we have a very special guest tonight, Miss Mandy. Is it Mauser?
Mauser, yep. Yes,
How
it
are you,
is.
Mandy?
I am well, doing as good as I can be. Thank
Good.
you for having me on.
Sure. Where are you coming from?
Kokomo, Indiana.
Kokomo, Indiana. I'm trying to think, have I ever been to Indiana? Apparently,
Not
there's
much.
CPS problems there.
Oh, yes. Yes. A lot of them.
What's going on with you in CPS?
Right now, our case is done. It has been done. It's been a year exactly. So we lost our rights during our TPR. Actually, it was 3 months later that she informed us that we had our rights terminated.
How many children are involved?
Four,
Wow.
seven, yeah, 7, 6, 5, and 2.
What happened that you would lose your rights?
It all started December 12th, 2020. We were wrongfully arrested due to a stranger pulling in our driveway that lived down the road. They were trying to pick up on a couple warrants, and she decided to run in her car. She hit a cop and then chose our driveway to pull into. And when my fiance got up to see what was going on, the cops forced their way in and had him in handcuffs, and I went to jail too. Um, they wouldn't listen to anything we had to say that night, but the whole criminal case was thrown out. It was completely dropped. So our kids never came back home though.
What did they charge you with?
Possession of marijuana, possession of methamphetamine, and possession of a controlled substance.
Is marijuana legal in Indiana?
No, it's not.
What? I mean, were those good charges or were they made up charges?
Well, they all got dropped, dismissed. It they were made up charges.
Okay, so did you have a trial and did you fight these allegations?
We never went to trial. With the criminal, we didn't go to trial. They ended up dropping it about the same time that our CPS case went to trial. So the timing was a little crazy, but yeah, it was all thrown out. We didn't even have to go before the judge for that.
Okay, are you talking about the criminal case was thrown out?
Yes, I'm sorry, the criminal case, yes.
Okay, now you understand that the criminal case being dropped has no impact on the CPS
Yes,
case.
yes,
Okay.
yeah, that was just what got them involved and when they took our kids.
Okay.
So the whole our case was only open for 6.5 months. We complied with them. Of course, they had them. And then we started, it had been 6 months into the case. We were getting false positive drug screens for drugs we weren't doing. And I think it was the third one for me, and I told my caseworker that I wasn't taking any more from them. Now, at the same time that this was going on here in Indiana, they had a big lawsuit going on for falsifying drug screens with I believe it was I don't think I can say the name actually of the lab, but it's well known. So they ended up switching companies 6 months into it. Now, before this, when they told me that I was smoking marijuana, and I hadn't been. This happened a few times, so I ended up telling her I wasn't taking any more of their drug screens, that I would pay to out of pocket to go to a lab and go in front of somebody and do them. I just didn't trust their company, their vendor. So she told me that it wouldn't work, that I couldn't do that. It was the next test that my fiance took. They came back positive for methamphetamine and negative for amphetamine, which makes no sense. And it was a very big mess. It really was. I ended up getting into it with my caseworker about that time, and told her some things she didn't like to hear. And then it was within about a week after that is when we got the paperwork for the TPR.
You think it was retaliation?
Definitely.
Did you
Yes.
see the show we did, seems like a couple months now, about drug testing?
No, I didn't actually. I've watched a lot of your interviews, but I think I missed that one.
You know, what you really should do is try to find it. There's an attorney by the name of Okori Okorocha. And what Okori has done is he has gone to school and educated himself. Now he's a forensic scientist with respect to drug testing and alcohol testing in California. He even testifies as an expert in a lot of cases. And as a matter of fact, I don't know that this is necessarily true, but that's what he does mostly now is testify as an expert. I think he still has his law practice. And you know what he told me and told all of us on that show?
Hmm.
Drug screens are not admissible evidence if you object to them.
Wow. They don't tell you that.
Right. But here's the thing. A drug screen is different from a drug test. Did you know that?
No, I
Right.
didn't.
A lot of people don't know that. It's an actual different procedure. And the procedure called a drug screen, if you object to it, doesn't I'm hearing a reverb. Does somebody have the show on someplace? Like on another device?
No.
Okay. Hold on a second.
Let me make sure. No, I don't think I do.
Okay, it stopped. No, it didn't. Let me see if I can mute you, Mandy. Okay, so all right, now it stopped. So a drug screen doesn't meet the scientific requirements for admissible evidence. A drug test does, but drug screens and drug tests aren't the same thing. So, but you and your attorney have to know to object to the drug screen. And so, one of the things that was explained to me was drug screens are much cheaper and easier to do than drug tests. So, if you want to save some money, you use the drug screen. The problem is, drug screens don't meet the legal requirements for the results of a scientific test to be admitted into evidence. So, if you object to the drug screen coming into evidence, your objection should be sustained and it should not be used against you. You know, and this came up recently in a case where the social worker wrote in a report that my client had a positive drug screen. Now, the interesting thing was I brought this up to the prosecuting attorney, to the county council, just, off the record in passing. And it was like she was shocked because one of their dirty little secrets has now been exposed. I recently, this has been a couple months, but the case is still going on. I objected to a drug screen coming into evidence. And the judge looked at me very confused because I'm not sure if the judge realized that there is a difference between a drug screen and a drug test. And in order to be admitted into evidence over an objection, it has to be a drug test. You know, there is one county in California where they will order you in the courtroom to go do a drug screen, but they call it a drug test. And you walk out the door and you make a left-hand turn, and there's another office right there. Small office, maybe 10 by 10. It has a desk in it, printer, fax machine, a chair, a desk chair. And the interesting thing is, there's no laboratory testing equipment. So the judge ordered my client to go take a test in this office. And because I had looked in that office, because it has a window on the door before, I objected. This was before I did my show with Corey. I objected and said, that's not a drug test. Like, what are you guys doing? They were using that to take people's kids away. And one of the other attorneys in there, one of the court-appointed attorneys told me, Mr. Davis, we've been doing this for years. You're the first one that ever brought that up. I said, well, you don't have to be a genius to bring that up. There's no testing facilities. There's nothing, no lab equipment, nothing like that. And what they were doing is a woman who was like an administrative assistant, not even, a laboratory person, was basically doing some type of drug screen with your urine using some kind of, something you buy at the CVS store, which is okay. It's just not admissible into evidence if you object to it. So my client, and here's the real telling fact. My client went out there, as the judge ordered, and took the test. She tested positive. And because I made such a stink, he ordered her after the hearing to go down, which was less than a mile away, to the drug testing facility. The lab. She goes in there, she takes the test again. The next day we get the results. Negative. The county still tried to use the drug screen. The judge knew, I think the judge knew I was right and didn't accept it. But here's the thing they kept doing. They kept bringing it up to kind of taint my client. Oh, she tested positive on a drug screen. And I had to keep objecting like, wait a minute, you can't bring that up. The judge has already ruled on that. Drug screens are not admissible if you object. The big part is if you object. If you object. Mandy, I just unmuted you.
Yeah, I see that.
And I'm getting the feedback from you.
Yeah, that I wish I would have known this back then. Of course, there's parts of it that I learn now, I researched into, but I don't know. The thing is, on the same days that he had tested positive, like I told you about, he actually, because we were on a pretrial probation until our case got dropped. So he was actually there was a couple of days he went in the exact same day to probation and actually took a lab type test, and they all came back negative for everything. And the judge overlooked it in the courtroom. You would think that the probation urine analysis would be a lot more, just better than the mouth swabs. But
no. Let me tell you why. You didn't object to it.
I know. I know.
So if you don't object to it, your common sense means nothing.
Right. Right.
You know,
Uh,
Darren and I were having a conversation the other day about why common sense doesn't rule the courtroom. There are many reasons why, okay? It doesn't. So don't get mad. You know, if you and your attorney don't know, to object to that, oh well, what can I say?
Well, you're working that way. You're working that one up, Mr. Davis. You're starting the trend.
right. Yes.
So I hope everybody who's watching this show goes back, finds our show on drug testing and attorney Corey Okorocha and look and watch the show. You're going to be shocked. And I think I mentioned this to Miss G a couple weeks ago, maybe a week ago. I spoke to an attorney that's as experienced as I am in CPS cases. And I mentioned that to him. And he looked at me and he says, "Are you sure?" He didn't know either. He didn't know either. Because for years we've just been brainwashed to accept drug screens as being drug tests. They're not the same. That I try to learn something new every day. And that was a big one for me. That was a big one for me. I had a mediation recently where they put out a report. They call it in LA a last minute report. And it said that my client had tested negative and then had one positive drug screen. And I mentioned it to the county council before the mediation. I said, "Oh, I hope you're not going to try to use that drug screen against my client because it's not admissible." Silence. And during the mediation, she never brought it up. It was like, county council are trained, highly trained lawyers, and they have their meetings where they learn techniques and strategies. And I think this particular issue has been one of those strategies and secrets that they never told anyone about. So if you're watching, if it's a drug screen, object. And by the way, on that show with Corey, he told us that you got to look at when they do send it to a lab for testing, which is more expensive. He said you got to look at the procedures because sometimes, depending on the drug they're testing, they don't even have the right equipment to do a proper test because it's so expensive. And I think one of the drugs he mentioned was methamphetamine. Apparently, there's two types of methamphetamine. One's illegal, one's legal. And the only way that you can tell the difference is by the special machine that is used at the end of the testing process that apparently costs, tens of thousands of dollars. And not every lab has that. But if you don't have it, that test should not be admissible if you object to it.
Right. Yeah, I just want to say I actually have reached out to some lab technicians and just people in that area, and I've got a couple of responses back because I was just I was confused with how something could be positive for methamphetamine and negative for amphetamine. I honestly feel like our caseworker or her supervisor were falsifying the results because of that. I feel like they didn't know what they were doing, obviously, because the lab told me that in order for it to be positive for meth and negative for amphetamine, that it would have been some more like Sudafed, but they would have had to send it off. They should have sent it off anyways, just to make sure, like what you were just talking about. So,
Right.
yeah.
The Fed was one of the things he talked about as well. I just shared the link, by the way, for everybody to have that show about the drug screening.
The other thing is, the other thing Corey said is that you won't know if the lab has all the proper equipment or running the proper testing on any particular drug sample unless the expert, someone like him, goes to the lab and looks at the procedure. We just think magically, oh, the lab says it's positive. How do we know the lab did it the right way? And apparently, testing a substance like urine for a drug is a multi-step process with different machines. And according to him, all labs are not created equal. All labs don't have the right machines. But it's kind of like this thing, we never look behind the veil. Oh, the lab said it's positive, so we'll just accept that. I can't tell you how many times over my career people have told me, Mr. Davis, that can't be positive. I don't do drugs. Or I don't do that drug, right? And it's kind of frightening because they are actually taking people's children away. There's one of the drug tests, and I think he spoke about this. It's called the patch test, where you put a patch on your shoulder and you walk around for a couple weeks. And there's one county here in Southern California who was using that quite a bit. And people were writing, scientists were writing papers about how unreliable that test was because it was susceptible to the environment, to air, to people that you're around. And, if you came in contact with something in the environment unknowingly, it would test positive on you. I actually had a client that wanted to bring a lawsuit about that. But she eventually ended up getting her kids back. And she decided that she didn't want to do it, that she had enough of CPS and just wanted to be left alone. And I couldn't blame her, But this drug testing and drug screening, and it's all very fascinating because it opens up the door for things that we didn't know before, right? Not because it's new, we just weren't scientists, you know? So, first of all, was it a drug screen or a drug test? Secondly, was the test done the proper way with the proper equipment? When have you ever heard anybody challenge a drug test other than chain of custody? That's the go-to argument. But that's just one argument out of many. And someone made a joke regarding that show to me. They said, well, it's close. A screen is close enough for government work,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Which means it's the government. They can use it and they can take your kid away. What the hell? Close enough for government work. The only thing was they didn't lose their children because of some shoddy scientific evidence. Mandy, I've talked too much. Did you have any
Fine.
questions you wanted to ask me?
So the after effects are pretty hard. I feel like right now I'm just waiting to die, to be honest. I feel like my whole life is, what do I have, my question is, do I still have enough time for lawsuits? Without my kids, I have no purpose. So my purpose now is standing up to it, fighting and trying to make changes for, other people so they don't have to go through this. I have a voice and I used it the whole time. And unfortunately it backfired. So, do I still have time?
The answer is yes. But first of all, let me say this. Based upon what you've just said to me, I would highly recommend that you talk to someone.
Oh, I do. I
Okay.
do.
All right.
And I'm
Good.
actually involved in a Lion Rock Recovery. They're from California too. Um,
Okay.
yeah, I have a good support system through them,
Good.
and
Good.
but it's just hard. I mean, this is like
I can
a
only
nightmare.
yeah, I can only imagine. Would you be interested in joining our platform and being our representative in Indiana? We're
Oh,
trying to
definitely.
we're trying to organize state captains. Darren's the state captain for Maine. You would be the state captain for Indiana. We would organize by county and city, trying to make changes in the laws in each of your states, and then voting together in federal elections as well.
Oh, yes, definitely. You just made my whole night. Yes.
And that way, we can have some unity among voters. You don't have to tell me, but I will suspect that most of the people involved in CPS, they cover the spectrum from conservatives to liberals, from Republicans to Democrats to communists. But we all have something that we want to change. We've all lost children, not me personally, but the parents have lost children in this system that's been unfair. And, what's that saying? The enemy of my enemy is my friend. So we can come together and we can make a change. I assure you, if you get 500,000 people in Indiana to vote and to listen to you, there will be change made.
Yep.
There will be change
Right.
made. If we just get 1 million people nationwide, there will be change made. Just by politics, just by voting.
Hey, Grace, there's a lot of people commenting about their state, and they want to be part of it. So please take their names down or
Hey
make a
Grace,
note.
one of the things I'd ask you to do is create an Excel spreadsheet or a Google spreadsheet with names, address, telephone numbers, email addresses, and and the state that these people are going to be working in, because we're
Yep.
going to have state captains, and then by county we'll have county captains, and then by city we'll have city captains.
Yep.
Okay, and we can all communicate via the internet. One of the things, Grace, one of the things I mentioned to you, and I don't know if you gotten a chance to do this, is to form Facebook groups for each state, just for the purpose of them communicating and talking with each other. We can get a newsletter together at a national level, at a state level, county level, city level, and start organizing, because everybody that appears or that has these CPS problems, I'd have to say like 99% of them are able to vote. In some states they have prohibitions against people not being able to vote. For example, I think in California, if you're a convicted felon, you may not be able to vote. But I'd say 99% of the people aren't convicted felons and they're able to vote. But even if you are convicted and not able to vote in your state, you can still help organize, right? You can still spread the word, because that's what we need to do. So, Mandy, don't be surprised. Grace will be contacting you.
I look
Mandy,
forward to it.
any other questions you wanted to ask me?
Um, no, not really. I'm just kind of in shock about the whole drug screen thing and the lab testing like that. It's just I wish I would have known that back then. But what
Yeah,
can you do? You can't go backwards. So
Who
right.
adopted your kids, Mandy?
what was that? I'm sorry.
Who adopted your children?
We don't know.
It's not
My
family members. Okay.
no, they honestly, my mom and his mom both. When it got to be the time when we got the paperwork for the TPR, they tried to get him, and our caseworker would not allow it. She talked him out of it, told him that we had more time, that there was enough time, and then it was just a mess. So our boys actually, they split our kids up. We have 2 boys and 2 girls, and our girls have been in the same home. We do know where it's at. Our case manager, he actually kind of told us when we were doing visits. our boys had been in 8 different homes that we knew of, and this was within the first couple months of them being taken. So we have no idea where our boys are, none at all. It blows my mind that they think that that's better for them, than just, I mean, it's a money game is what it is. Everybody knows that. It's the incentives. It's how much money they were making off each of them. I mean, the trauma though that my boys have been through, so many different places and people. I mean, the odds and the statistics are scary when it comes to what they've experienced and had to endure. So, the whole case it was a mess. Like it's unbelievable, honestly. So yeah, that's where they're at.
How long have they been adopted? How many years?
It's just, I don't even think they're adopted yet. Our case, it was last year, when we did it, and when we got the judge's order, it was last June when she finally decided.
Did
So
you
a
appeal
year.
it?
Yes. And we actually, I know there's a strict timeline on it, but it went a little bit over for the attorneys that they gave us for the appeals. One of them was a real estate attorney. The other one I talked to one time on the phone and couldn't get a hold of him anymore after that. And we never even got anything in the mail saying what happened. So the appeal was, I feel like, a joke, honestly.
Yeah, it is a joke. And I've been saying that all along. I mean, they assign attorneys to people in general, whether it's LA County, Virginia, whatever. They assign attorneys who have no idea what they're doing. Literally have no idea what they're doing. Maybe one that was working as a CPS attorney before in a different firm and then decided to go work for the county, maybe one out of a million. But what they're doing is wrong, because a real estate attorney doesn't know what they're doing, but the state tells them what to do. They are little puppets to the state. A criminal law attorney, little puppet to the state, because if they are juvenile dependency attorney, really juvenile dependency attorney, they're not going to do that. They're not going to have, they're not going to subject themselves as puppets to the state, and especially steal children from their family. This is wrong. This is very wrong, and I'm glad that we're moving towards the forward to stop them from continuing to do that. And with everybody's help, being in one hand, like together, united, we can stop them, and we can start voting for the right judges.
Hey, Mandy, I don't know if Darren or Miss G can find this, but we actually have a show where a woman lost her parental rights. 5 years goes by. She gets back into court, gets her child back, and gets her rights reinstated. She was from San Diego. I forget her name. But if Miss G or Mr. Darren find that link, we'll post it, because that's a show you should watch too.
Yes.
And I happen to know this really happened because I know her attorney.
That
And
was it. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
and I've talked to him about the case. She originally called me. I was one of many attorneys I think she talked to, and I told her I didn't think I could help her. Your rights have been terminated 5 years. Now you want the kid back and you want to reinstate your rights. Boy, that's a long shot. And she asked me, could I refer her to someone? And I did. And he took the case and he helped her and he got her the kid back and the rights reinstated. Now, that's not the usual scenario. The stars had to align in the right way, right? But it taught me a lesson. Never say die.
Yeah, you just gave me some hope, I'll tell you. I believe if there's a will, there's a way. And like I said, I have nothing else to lose. And the last couple of months have been pretty rough. Honestly, I feel like it all started really hitting me. And then I don't know, the timing with you guys having me on this show with some other things that I've been personally trying to get, do just to be able to cope. The timing is, I mean, it's almost like this is a sign from God, honestly, is how I feel. Definitely.
You know what? Do you mind being on my prayer show tonight after this show?
No, I would love
Okay.
to.
I'm gonna have Grace send you a link, just like this link, but it's gonna be for my prayer show, and I want you to, I really want you to be on that show because the message tonight I think is for you.
Awesome.
Is that okay?
Yes. Oh, yes. Yes.
Hey,
Perfect.
Mr. Darren, did you have any other questions or comments about or for Mandy?
The only comments I have is don't ever give up hope. As long as you're breathing and your kids are out there, then you keep on fighting because they're worth it. They're worth it. You've got the drive and the energy. Don't ever say that you lost hope because there's always hope for some reason or the other. Like look at Mr. Davis, for instance, found out the difference between drug testing and drug screens. How many kids now from this point forward is that saved to be taken away from their parents? There's no way of measuring it. But that's something new that's getting out there. So there's always something new. There's always people like Mr. Davis fighting. So don't ever, when you're down, just think, you know what, your kids are waiting for you, and there's hope for that. So don't get yourself down. And if you are down, there's a bunch of us that are around that can support you and pick you back up. So don't drag yourself through the dirt too much.
Hey, Mandy,
Yes.
I want to thank you for being on this evening, sharing your story. I appreciate it. Grace will be contacting you and regarding being our captain in Indiana, and then Miss Grace will be contacting you as well to be on the prayer show tonight with Miss G. All righty?
Awesome. Yes.
And
Thank you all so much.
Thank you. I look forward to working with you. Bye-bye.
Yes. Bye.
Okay, folks.
So the sound was coming from Mandy, it's not from me or Darren.
Right.
I muted myself. I muted Darren. I'm like, still here. And it was Mandy all along. I didn't want to embarrass her. She's so sweet.
That's, it's another thing. Another one of these drug tests. And drug tests, that's not a word at all. Drug tests. And it's just, these are one of these things that we got to change once we can get ourselves into that legislation and everything, because there's just, I'm going to call him Mr. O. Is that all right? Because I can't, how do we say his name? Corey
Okori Okorocha.
Yeah, all right. So I'm going to call him Mr. O2. So that seems to make sense to me.
How about Mr. Double O?
Mr. Double O, yes, perfect. So Mr. Double O, like he's got all this stuff coming out, and he's proven the science and stuff. So we need to incorporate all that. Like I just said to her, I mean, I don't know, but I'm going to guess you've probably used what they've said at least 3 or 4 times about the drug test, drug screens in your courtroom. And are you seeing differences when you're saying this to them, or are they just still trying to understand this also?
It's trying to win the case, basically.
I see a lot of pushback.
Okay.
And the reason why I think, this is my speculation, is that in order for the county to do a real drug test, it's expensive.
Very expensive.
They're paying the foster homes, though. See, they're paying the foster parents so much money for placement. Don't you think that money should go towards the drug testing if they assume that the parent is doing drugs?
If you were going to be fair about it, yeah. But they're not interested in being fair.
Well, it doesn't matter what they're interested in, though.
Oh, it does. It does. You got to do the Jerry Spence method, which is look at the case from your opponent's eyes, not from your eyes. And then you'll figure out what you need to do and why.
And as far as that, like, what do you mean? Like whether they should just drug test everybody? I'm not sure where you're going with that one, Miss G. Like, what do you?
Oh no! If you're ordered to drug test,
yeah.
By the way, I think in my experience, the judge orders drug tests, not drug screens.
But
right?
They do drug screening.
Right.
They don't do the damn drug test, and that's when the judge says, I don't want you to what? There's an attorney I spoke with. He's going to be in our show next week. He said that the judge told him um, that he wants to hear from the expert, meaning the county attorney and the social workers and all this, like they're experts, because he said the same thing. That's a drug screening. You ordered a drug test, Your Honor, not drug screening. So the attorneys argued, and the judge said, "Be quiet, sir, or Mr. So and so. I would rather hear from the experts."
Mhm.
Now, these people are not experts. See, that's what gets me, though. See, I know I can't cuss, but I want to cuss so badly. They are horrible human beings. Horrible. I mean, horrible is not even the word I want to say, but it's not right what they're doing. It's not right what they're doing.
Right.
If that doesn't boil inside people by now, this information, if it doesn't boil inside them by now and make them get out there and get people to vote vote new people in, I mean, I don't know what will, because they're taking advantage of parents. They're taking advantage of children, and every county in every state should be held accountable, and judges should be taught. They should learn. They should understand what's really going on, because either they're just ignorant
Good
to
job.
the law. They need to be trained well
There we go.
to the law. I think I said that right.
Good job, Miss G. No cussing.
Thank God. I almost did. I know.
You were close. I saw it coming out.
He was coming at me.
Before we end the show tonight, I want to make a comment about what we're supposed to be talking about tonight, CPS trial strategies. And I want to give you a trial strategy that
Great.
I've implemented throughout the years. It's very simple. One of the things that good trial attorneys do is they give an opening statement. Okay. But I stopped doing opening statements in CPS cases because you just alert your opposition as to what you're going to do. All right.
Yeah.
And because things tend to be loosey-goosey in CPS courtrooms, not as formal as a criminal courtroom or even a civil courtroom, so what happens is, and these cases are continued for days and weeks and whatever. If I tell someone I'm going to do ABC, the first thing they're going to do is get evidence to rebut ABC.
Mhm.
So I stopped doing that as a trial strategy. Not too long ago, someone asked me who my witnesses were going to be. I really didn't want to tell them, but the judge said, well, you have to disclose the witnesses, which is in the judge's purview, but everybody has to do it. And then they asked me, well, what is so-and-so going to testify to? And I said, I'd rather not say.
You don't have to say, right?
No, well, this judge didn't make me say it.
But in general, like what if it's a family law case? Do you still have to disclose what you're going to
Typically, you have to disclose who the witness is. And sometimes judges want you and order you to give one or two sentences about what the witness is going to testify to. And one of the things that I've seen happen with county council is when you do that, they try to make a motion in limine to exclude that witness by telling the judge, hey, judge, that's irrelevant. Mr. Davis shouldn't be allowed to call that witness. Now, first of all, in order to make that argument, that's a lot of chutzpah. All right, you got to have some big ones to argue that I shouldn't be able to call a witness, because most judges are going to let me call a witness. I have a case now that's pending where I have, I think, about 19 or 20 proposed witnesses. Now, That doesn't mean I'm going to call every witness, but it means that I have the opportunity to call that witness if I need to, the way the case develops, right? And so if you're trying to win a case where you're trying to save some kids for some parent, you got to have, hopefully, you have all possibilities mapped out. So that's my simple trial strategy for this evening. Ms. G, any questions or comments about that?
No.
Mr. Darren, any questions or comments about that?
No, sir.
Okay. I'm going to give you guys the last word tonight to end the show. Ms. G, any questions or comments you want to do?
Well, it's not a question. It's I just I don't know how else to say this, but I'm going to be nice about it. And I said this before so many times. I have a person that called me about a year ago, and she bought the money that her husband was saving to hire Attorney Davis. She ended up buying a $33,000 um, motorhome, whatever you call it, like a top-notch used motorhome. The reason for that is because, and she's in LA County, by the way. The reason I'm saying this is because I sent her the agreement. Everything was cool. Then she did this without the knowledge of her husband. Her husband got upset. Now, her social worker made friends with her. So the social worker she made friends with the mom, and she started pretending she is cool with her, that everything is going to be okay. Then her husband kept telling her, don't trust him, don't trust him, don't trust him. He would call me and say, Miss G, talk some sense into her, blah, blah, blah. She didn't listen. She would take the phone outside and talk to the social worker like she's her buddy. And later, they find out that it was all a game. Now she lost her parental rights. A month ago, she said she was selling the trailer and she was going to hire us before she loses her parental rights. And I told her, you have to do this immediately. She didn't do it because she thought there's still hope. So I guess my advice to all of you, stop being naive and lawyer up. And a motor home was not going to get you your kids back because you already had a home. If that didn't get your kids back, a motor home will never get your kids back. The only way to get your kids back is if you hire a competent attorney immediately. There is no time for BS. There is no time for games because your kid's life is at stake. And try your damn hardest not to get pregnant in the damn process. See, you guys think that it's all nice and dandy to have a baby when you have an open CPS case. But what you don't understand is that they're coming after that baby too. I don't know how many years I have to say this. I don't understand why you guys are not listening to the message, because you are not superstar from the galaxy that they're going to friend you and they're going to be on your side. Their purpose is to take your child or children or your newborn or the unborn. So if your husband is giving you the right advice, take it. You know why? Because God
Did she freeze up there, Mr. Darren? That's a great picture of her, isn't
I
it?
don't know if she's frozen or if she's trying not to swear. I'm not sure which one it is here.
Hey, can
Well,
you
I can
take a
say a
pic- can you
thousand
take
things.
can you take a picture of that? We're going to make
I
that a
know.
coverage.
I'm going to do a front screen, I think is what I do here.
Okay, Mr. Darren,
Yes, sir.
anything you want to close out the evening with? Any
Well,
comments?
I was kind of going a little bit different direction of her. I was going to let everybody know that, like, don't give up, don't lose hope. like I said before, there's people out there like this. I can't get over that face looking at her. There's plenty of people out there like Mr. Davis that are discovering new things every day, if not every other day. We're finding a way. There's a bunch of people out there like Miss G, myself, that we're all out there trying to figure these things out. You're never alone. There's plenty of support groups. If you're feeling down, you're feeling bad, if you're feeling those things, seek those groups that you need help from, if you're getting, your family, your friends, especially to those substance abuse people that are involved in these cases, it's very hard because CPS isolates you from your family. That's what they do. That's, they work completely opposite than they do when you're in actual recovery program. They take your, they rip it all away. In a true recovery program, the biggest thing that you're supposed to do is surround yourself with family and give yourself support. So make sure that you do those things because, a relapse is imminent, with people. I'm not saying that it doesn't, it doesn't happen, but look, just because if you do relapse in these tough times, don't shut yourself down, get back up, wipe your feet off and go back at it. There's hope, there's all of this stuff. So just stay strong and, stand up, do the fight with us, with Mr. Davis leading this run on this legislature thing. And let's get back at these bastards.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Darren. And thank you for joining tonight. And if Miss G's listening.
Hey, like this, right?
Thank you, Miss G. We're missing you on the stream. You kind of froze there on us. We're going to be on tomorrow night, 7 p.m. So we'll see everyone tomorrow night. Good night, all.
Hey, Mr. D.